Well, the tragic fire at a Johannesburg building that left 77 people dead seems to have spurred national and local government into action. The city is now embarking on a mission to reclaim hijacked buildings. This following last week's blaze in Marshalltown. MMC for Public Safety, that's eNCA, is expected to conduct an oversight visit. And our reporter, eNCA's Heidi Giokos, will be on that story. And, of course, she joins us right now to give us an update on this matter. And Heidi, a very warm good morning to you. I think once again we're seeing government officials taking a center stage and saying that they will take control of these hijacked buildings. What seems to be their plan to do this?
Yes, I think many would say it's a little too late, but the MMC for Public Safety in the city of Johannesburg actually told eNCA on Saturday evening that it's never too late to try and tackle these issues. We currently are in Hillbrow. I'm going to move out of shot and just ask my colleague to show you. This is one of the identified buildings by the city that they need to tackle. It's called Van Court here in Hillbrow, and this has been one of the buildings that have been highlighted as a hijacked building, a building that is clearly a ticking time bomb, many would say. It does seem as though it is over-occupied, so obviously there are just too many people living inside this building. There clearly are no proper ablution facilities. We are still waiting for the MMC for public safety as well as for transport. We have been told that the MMC for transport will also be present here today. I have been told that there is a council meeting at 10 o'clock, so it doesn't seem as though they will be tackling a number of buildings due to time constraints. But this is obviously an effort to try and deal with the massive problem in the city of Johannesburg when it comes to hijacked buildings, Tumelo. We did see last week, Thursday, 77 people lost their lives because of that fire that gutted one of the hijacked buildings in Marshalltown in the city of Johannesburg. And now it seems as though the city understands the pressure and the severity to deal and tackle with this. And as I've mentioned to you, Tumelo, that many would say it's a little too late, but the MMC is saying it's not too little too late, because he says that he has been at pains to try and deal with the hijacked building issue, saying that he's been litigated left, right and centre, and that's why he's been unable to really deal with the crisis here. But we'll obviously be posing all these questions to say, why now? Why are you doing this now? Should this have not been something done beforehand? But just driving here, Tumelo, we got lost. My colleague and I, Percy, got lost, and the state of the city is alarming. You cannot believe how people are living. You cannot believe the conditions. There's just rubbish everywhere. Nothing is kept. So that is also something else to be asked. Why is this continuing?
And also, I mean, for the MMC of Public Safety, obviously, his mandate is to ensure that the public is safe inside the city of Johannesburg, whether residing or visiting whatsoever. I mean, have we heard what the priorities are to ensure that there is safety? Because what we've heard about these buildings, Heidi, is that they are drug dens. This is where a lot of dangerous activity occurs inside and outside of those buildings. The city of Johannesburg is also crime infested. You cannot walk or at least let a day pass without hearing that somebody has either been robbed, somebody has either been hijacked, or even perhaps stabbed in some of the worst cases. Have we heard of those plans, even just not inside of those buildings or in terms of reclaiming those buildings, but what about the city itself in general?
Yes, I mean, you touch on a very important point, because we were also told that the building that was gutted last week, Thursday, was also a haven for drug lords, for human trafficking, and, oftentimes these buildings turn into brothels. That building was not an exception. This building is not an exception. There are possibly hundreds of buildings that are subjected to this. And I think what's really sad, Tumelo, is that you are seeing children walking in and out of these buildings. You can see that families are here, mothers with their children. And oftentimes when people occupy these buildings, it's out of severe desperation. Wherever it is that they might come from, it's because sometimes, and in some cases, they do not have anywhere else to go. And they are being exploited because they have to pay a certain amount to rent out a really small section of a room. And, you know, there was a JMPD officer that was actually showing me a video just before we went on air, and I was horrified at the living conditions. So there's one room, and then you have about 6 families in there, and it's separated with curtains. And, you know, when these buildings are engulfed, it's, you know, it's even worse because of the material that they use to separate these rooms. So the city obviously has to go on a massive, you know, aggressive, I would say, program to try and deal with what you've mentioned, the fact that often these buildings and just in and around the inner city, it's become drug havens, brothels, areas for human trafficking, and people are really being exploited here. So it's a massive building. It's not just, oh, it's a hijacked building and people are occupying it. There's a lot of other negative elements that come with these buildings. I'm surprised, though, that the MMCs have not arrived as yet, but we are seeing a high police presence together with JMPD, because when they embark on these raids and evictions, they have to, of course, be accompanied with law enforcement. But we'll just have to wait and see what comes out of this. We were told we would probably start around 9, but nobody has arrived as yet in terms of the MMCs, Tumelo.
All right, Heidi, we'll be sure to come back to you as soon as we hear of any other developments. Hopefully the MMC would have arrived at that time, and we'll get a clear, you know, picture and understanding in exactly how they plan to reclaim back these hijacked buildings. What's their starting point, and will it be effective, or just, you know, another case of looking like something is being done because there's a spotlight now being placed on that particular building. Isindiso Ministry building is on Corner Albert and Delver Street, where the fire had caught ablaze and 77 people's lives in the process were lost. But perhaps there is a plan that the MMC and the City of Johannesburg has. We'll be finding out with our reporter Heidi Giokos.